For the first time in over 15 months, the Dallas Cowboys have won back-to-back games as consecutive wins for the Cowboys in a 41-33 wild final score between the Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers out at AT&T Stadium. Welcome in, everybody, to the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper. Kyle Yeomans here, joined by a trio of former Dallas Cowboys, Barry Church, Nate Newton, the birthday boy. They got you a win, Nate, on your birthday. Yes, and sir. Isaiah Stanback. And Nate, since it is your big day and it's a birthday win for you, let's go ahead and start with you on this one. What did you think about the 41-33 win?
Oh, man, once again, the turnovers, man. These defensive guys over here to my left will tell you about them turnovers. They come in bunches like collard greens, baby. They're good. They're good and they're righteous, man, and I loved it. The defense once again led the way. We had a great job by Tony Pollard. We had a great job by CeeDee Lamb. But once again, D-Law, hey, you started this thing, man, and I appreciate you for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, these boys came to play today. I mean, they brought the energy. We talked about how important that was going to be prior to the game. They brought the energy, and we had Wilson come back. Wilson is back in the building. Yes, he let his presence be known. You can feel the difference. Can't you just feel it? I can feel the juice. You can feel the juice when he's on the field. He was running around, getting interceptions, almost getting interceptions, hitting people. The whole defense really rallied around the ball. These guys made plays, and the unsung hero, this offensive line, protected like crazy because San Francisco was blitzing, and they kept Andy Dalton nice and protected.
Yeah, this was a great overall victory, great team victory for the Dallas Cowboys. And like my boy Kyle said, it was the first time they won back-to-back games all year. And they needed it, especially with a Washington loss. They needed this to happen. But hats goes off to the defense for me. Like you said, the striker, Wilson, he showed up, man. He showed up. He was striking people. He was intercepting passes, showing his coverage skills. So hats goes off to him. But I got to give even more credit to the special teams. The punter out there, Newswander, if I'm butchering his name, I apologize. But, I mean, he was doing his thing out there, just flipping the field, punt after punt after punt. C.J. Goodwin down there downing them for him. So, overall, I thought it was a great Cowboys win, and I'm glad to see it.
Well, and also the final actual game's winning touchdown ended up being the CeeDee Lamb return on the onside kick. I mean, if he didn't have that return on the onside kick, the Hail Mary at the end would have actually been to tie the football game. So things kind of working out in favor because of the special teams today. But you guys mentioned the offensive line because of kind of what was at the back half of the second quarter and at the start of the third quarter. This was not an easy win by any means, and it took a lot of resiliency, especially in that second half, to find a rhythm, Isaiah. And the Cowboys certainly did that with kind of a couple big plays, the Dalton Schultz touchdown in the third quarter, and they continued that momentum into the fourth.
Yeah, these guys were making plays, man. I mean, you saw, Andy Dalton was throwing the ball well. These guys were catching it. We had some form of a ground game going, right? We didn't have the 1-2 punch like we wanted to have all season long. But Pollard held his own. He came out there and Kellen Moore. Kudos to Kellen Moore for force feeding him. And you could tell he just kept giving it to him. He kept running to the back of his offensive lineman, and guess what? Boom! He pops out for a nice little run, draws the defense up, and then we're able to get behind him with some nice throws. Great job offensively today.
I like that. And once again, Coach Philbin, I think it's been about, 8 weeks in a row, I've said a great job of putting together this offensive line, these guys coming out playing well for you. But I like how they use Pollard, man. Yeah. They ran him, they threw him the ball, they did all sorts of things to make sure that he had a chance to be in open space. When you do that with this kid, that's his value. His value ain't just hitting up in there and banging, but just, spreading it out. And they did that, man. And CeeDee Lamb, boy, you's a dog. He's a dog, man.
You're right about that. I mean, he is a dog. And that goes off to Kellen Moore out there. I think he called a wonderful game. He kept the 49ers offense kind of unbalanced pretty much throughout this whole game. And like you talked about earlier, their offensive line, they performed well. They blocked well. They kept Andy Dalton upright. And to me, this was all about the playmakers. It was all about the playmakers. Andy Dalton got Tony Pollard involved early and often. He was able to get the ball to Michael Gallup before he went out. Cooper, those boys, Schultz out there making plays. It was all about the playmakers today, getting the ball in their hands and letting them do work after the catch. They were able to make a lot of guys miss tackles out there, and it proved in the pudding that, hey, if you get these guys the ball early, they can do something with the rock. So hats goes off to offense and Kellen Moore.
Well, really quickly before we wrap things up on the First Word, let's go to the defensive side of the football and talk about what the turnovers meant for this team. I mean, 4 turnovers, Barry Church, in this football game, and you needed every single one of them to set your offense up for success.
Yeah, you needed every every single one of them, and they weren't just easy turnovers. I mean, Donovan Wilson was breaking downhill each and every time to get the ball. He should have had another pick that he ended up dropping, but he was flying all over the ball out there. The defensive line came to life. If they weren't at the quarterback sacking them, they were disrupting them, getting the ball out when they could. I think Mullins had 2 fumbles in the game, and that provided a short field for our offense. And Isaiah, our offense was able to take advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Our offense, converted off of that, and that's what we talked about in the past. When we have gotten turnovers, we try to kick field goals, right? We attempted to kick field goals. I'm not going to say we made them, but that's what happened in the past. But that was not the case today. It was a very complimentary football game in all 3 phases.
Donovan Wilson interception, Anthony Brown interception, D. Law forced fumble, Smith recovered. Armstrong got involved, forced fumble, recovered. Just a bunch of guys playing defense, doing what they got to do, and you got to love that. You got to love it.
You definitely do. And with the Cowboys win and a Washington loss going into Week 16, the Cowboys still have an opportunity to win the NFC East. It's pretty crazy whenever you talk about the Cowboys playoff scenario. But that's going to do it for us here on The First Word. Once again, the final score, 41-33. More post-game reaction on the way on DallasCowboys.com.
The Cowboys OT, presented by the Texas Lottery, is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Sleep Number. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed helps everyone from parents to pros improve their performance through quality sleep. Only at a Sleep Number store. NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass. And by the Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big.
There may have just been 9 combined wins between these two squads entering Week 15 of the regular season, but the Cowboys and the 49ers put on another classic as they never fail to entertain. 41-33 the final score as the Dallas Cowboys get win number 5 of the 2020 season. Welcome in to Cowboys OT here from the Star in Frisco. Glad you're with us. Kyle Yeomans alongside a trio of Dallas Cowboys, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, and Barry Church, as we break down another crazy matchup in the rivalry between the Cowboys and the 49ers, and it took a couple late interceptions in the fourth quarter, one by Donovan Wilson, one by Anthony Brown, both returning from injury this week, but Isaiah, they got the job done.
Yeah, man, the gang is back together. You know, and when the gang is back together, the boys come out and play. You know, and that's exactly what you saw today. Football is supposed to be a game where we have fun, right? I think everybody up here has played the game, and we all have fun when you're out there playing with your boys, right? And it's hard when you have somebody else come in that you really don't know, right? Who just came down from maybe from another block, and you're like, you know what, we're still playing the game, but it's just not as fun. So, but when your boys come back, oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. And that's what you saw today. Wilson's running around, Brown's running around. The guys are making plays. You can see the excitement on that side of the ball. Guys are having fun. And it's a totally different energy. And we keep bringing that word up, but it has a big effect, obviously, because these guys are out there turning the ball over, and we were able to convert and make some points off of it.
Turnovers. They breed success, and they keep you locked in and focused. You know, Anthony Brown, as well as his partner Wilson, and then you got D-Law. He's found a new life, and so he's doing his thing. Darren Armstrong caused some problems today. So when you see this right here, it keeps guys focused, and that running game that we feared earlier before in the pregame, it didn't garner itself. It didn't come up and rise. So the defense played well, and those were our playmakers. Can you believe it? It took us a bunch of weeks, but for the last 2 weeks, I think we've had like 8 turnovers. Hey, we doing it.
Hey, like you said, they come in bunches.
Yeah.
And like you said, Isaiah, the reinforcements came. They came at a much needed time. I mean, Anthony Brown showed up today. Trayvon Diggs, who he didn't get a pick or anything like that, but he was strapping out there. He was very sticky in coverage. And then like we mentioned, Wilson, the striker out there. He was striking boys, and he was taking the ball away, showing his coverage skills as well. So I was extremely impressed with this secondary out there, what they did. They didn't give up anything super deep. They made the 49ers pretty much fight and claw and scratch for every yard that they had. And that's what we thought coming into the season. We thought we were going to get that type of secondary, that type of defense. Like you mentioned, Nate, D-Law, he's something to come alive. These past 2 games, he has come alive. He's coming off the edge with some newfound juice, and he's arriving at the ball carrier with bad intentions, trying to strip the ball, trying to get it back for his offense. And that's what our defense has done these past 2 weeks. They turned the ball over, gave our offense short fields, and let Andy Dalton go out there and do what he does best, and that's score points. Hopefully we can continue that going forward for the rest of these last 2 games.
DeMarcus Lawrence with a forced fumble in each of the last 2 weeks, and the Cowboys defense 7 takeaways in the last 2 weeks, 3 against Cincinnati, 4 today against this San Francisco squad. And this is a game that took a little bit of fight there at the end. San Francisco brought the heat, tied it back up at 24. We're really bringing some pressure off the edge and challenging this offensive line, Isaiah, but they picked up the task and were able to protect Andy Dalton just enough to make those plays down the stretch.
Absolutely. You know, Big Nate always says it, Coach Philbin for the win. Coach Philbin comes through once again. We knew that Coach Sal, was going to bring pressure. We know what these 49ers were made of. We know regardless of their personnel, all the injuries that they've sustained this year, they still were going to bring some pressure. They did that. Our offensive line stood strong, gave Andy Dalton time to find his receivers, and they created holes for Pollard to get off as well. Great job offense.
I tell you, like right here, man, I was 1 off. I said 8, but Kyle corrected me. It's been 7. But, who cares? Who cares? 1 more, 1 less. We won the game.
Exactly. We won. And if you can keep Andy Dalton upright, we see what he can do. He can move the ball down the field and score some points. Hopefully his offensive line can continue that.
Cowboys win consecutive games for the first time since Week 10 of the 2019 season. It's been quite some time since you've seen a win streak in Dallas. When we come back, we're going to talk about the defensive side of the football, more on those turnovers, but they did give up 33 points. How good of a game was this defensively for the Cowboys when we come back on Cowboys OT? Back here on Cowboys OT as we roll along after a 41-33 Cowboys win over the San Francisco 49ers. Cowboys winning back-to-back games for the first time this season. And guys, when we talk about this defense, you can talk about the 4 turnovers. I mean, that's something that this defense has been longing for all year long, but they've also been longing to stop the run and slow down that short yardage passing situation. Nick Mullins was able to finish up with 300 passing yards, but the Cowboys defense, 458 total yards allowed in this game. Where do you rank this in terms of the defensive performances we've seen this year, Isaiah?
Well, we know the defensive coordinator is fighting for his job. Yeah. You know, Coach Nolan's fighting for his job, and he's doing everything he can to make sure that these guys are in positions to make plays. Too many yards were still given up. Let's be honest. Yes. Right? Too many yards were still were given up. However, a lot of it was in kind of slop time. Some of that stuff came in slop time. So overall, I think it was one of their better performances collectively as a defense, simply because guys were taking care of responsibilities. Even plays that weren't made, they were almost made, right? Even interceptions and turnovers that were potentially there, they weren't there, but guess what? You felt their presence there. So Wilson cutting on the ball, you know, you've seen these guys starting to read different coverage, different route concepts. They're jumping routes now. You're starting to see it come along, and then obviously the front seven is starting to play better. So overall, I think it was better. Coach is still fighting for his job, but guess what? It was a good performance today.
You know, when I look at things, it comes down to whether you won or lost. And how many turnovers did you get? How many turnovers did you give up? We didn't give up any. Dalton played a nice game, so we didn't give up any turnovers. We didn't, and they did. And that's the difference in the game. And in today's NFL, you look at the turnovers, the time of possession. We lost that, but we won that for us, the turnover battle, and that's how you come out a winner.
You're completely right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about W's and L's. And we were able to get the W today. And we were able to take the ball away. I mean, we might have gave up a lot of yards, but we also stopped them from getting in the end zone and gave our team the ball back 4 times, which proved to be, you know, great against this team because we ended up getting points off of it. But what I did like about this defense, even though they gave up a lot of yards and they gave up some chunk plays out there, the communication as a whole, I feel like was a lot better going into this game. And against the run defense, yes, we gave up a little bit here and there, but overall, you saw that defense flying to the ball. There was guys, even though the guy was on the ground tackle, players were flying over the ball just to get to the ball. It was that gang mentality, that gang tackling that we missed out throughout this whole season. So overall, I feel like it was one of their better performances. Is there stuff that they need to work on? Of course there is, but they have the right thing going right now, and they need to keep this momentum going.
4 total turnovers. You see the 2 interceptions. It should say 2 fumbles there as well for the Dallas Cowboys, as they both were in that first half of action. But then you have the yardage. I think that's kind of the big thing that is worrisome to most people, is the fact that they were giving up those chunk plays like you just mentioned, Barry. But whenever you talk about the communication and you talk about getting some of these guys back defensively, especially in the secondary, how encouraging is this for a defense that needs to build going into this offseason so that 2021 is a little bit more fruitful on that side of the football?
It's very encouraging because the guys you got back there communicating for the rest of the defense, they're relatively young. And if they're still out there communicating, being the quarterback back there like Wilson was today, you can build on that. You can build forward with that, with young guys understanding the defense, flying around, getting everybody lined up in the right situation. You don't have to have a great vet or a 10-year vet back there to do that. If you got a young guy in Wilson that's able to do that, that proved dividends for this defense, and hopefully they're able to do that moving forward.
Yeah, there's one word that comes to mind, whether you're a rookie or whether you're a vet in this league, and you have to have it if you want to be a primetime player, and that's confidence. And what we saw over these past few weeks is guys starting to gain confidence. You're starting to gain confidence in your secondary. You're starting to gain confidence in your linebackers, not getting, jumping into different holes from time to time. And then you're starting to gain confidence in your D-line and the guys that you've paid a lot of money to play, D-Law, Crawford. Some of these guys are starting to really stop up these holes and are starting to get pressure on the quarterback. So this defense is playing with more confidence, and that's what's going to allow these guys to go out there and hopefully continue to finish playing like this the rest of the season.
When a coach like Coach Nolan, like you said, is fighting for his job, he wants guys to be comfortable within the system. And now you see guys comfortable in the system. So now they're taking chances. They're taking them high-risk chances, and it's working out for them. Hey, keep striking them, my man. Wilson, just keep striking, baby.
And while San Francisco lost the game but had over 450 yards total in the loss, the Cowboys were held under 300 yards, but it was the second 40-burger of the 2020 season. Got to throw that in there. We're going to talk about the offense when we come back on the other side of the break. The Cowboys get the win in this one, 41-33, win number 5 of the 2020 season. We'll continue right after this. A 41-33 win in Week 15 of the NFL season for the Dallas Cowboys. They've now won 6 of the last 7 meetings against the San Francisco 49ers as we continue on here on Cowboys OT. Kyle Yeomans, Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, and Nate Newton. And Isaiah, when you look at this offense, held underneath 300 yards, but Andy Dalton was efficient. Tony Pollard had a big day, both receiving out of the backfield and toting the rock as well for a 40-yard touchdown run. But what did you think of the offense overall and what they were able to accomplish?
You just said it, efficient. That's all they had to be. They didn't have to be extra. They didn't have to be amazing. They didn't have to be glorious. They just had to be efficient. And that's what you ask of these guys. That's what you ask Andy Dalton to come in, and that's the role you ask him to play. Pollard came in, and guess what you asked him to be? Efficient. You didn't ask him to be Zeke. Do what you do, right? As your receiving back, as a running back. You ask for CeeDee Lamb to make catches. Obviously Coop went out a little bit earlier, but then you ask Schultz. Schultz has been one of the key guys on this team all season long, and he's showed up, whether he's blocking or whether he's receiving. And all these guys are starting to become more efficient. And Kellen Moore, you were the most efficient guy today out of anybody.
When you look at this team and the way they're playing, man, offensively, this is what we thought at the beginning of the year before Dak went down. Even when Dak was there, they was doing big things, but now they're winning. And you don't have to throw for 1,000 yards. Dalton threw for 200 yards today. Pollard was big, coming out of the backfield, 60-plus yards, running the ball. He was big. Yeah, like you say, Schultz, he's doing his thing. Just settle down. Don't worry about the yardage. Just worry about the score, and everything will take care of itself.
Yeah, we talked about confidence in the defense, and I think that same thing happens on the offensive side of the ball as well. I feel like Andy Dalton is playing with a newfound confidence these last couple games. This offensive line who's been together, patchwork throughout this whole year, these last 2 weeks have been the same offensive line, and they're keeping him upright. And we've seen if you can keep him upright, he can be an efficient quarterback out there. And we saw that today. He was passing the ball to everybody. You had Gallup getting involved, Cooper, like you said, Tony Pollard out there out of the backfield looked explosive, looked fast. So overall, I think this was a great performance performance by the offense and confidence going forward that, hey, if we can keep Andy Dalton upright, we got something going on here.
Well, you also took advantage of those turnovers on the defensive side of the football. Almost every single time that a turnover happened, it ended up in a touchdown. There was only one time where they had to kick and settle for a field goal, and that was after the Donovan Wilson pick. Here's a look at some of those numbers overall for the Cowboys today. The 204 yards through the air. Another big day, though, for CeeDee Lamb, both as a returner and on the offensive side of the football in his receptions in this one. But what'd you guys think of the wide receivers? Michael Gallup had to leave the game with a hip injury. Noah Brown had to step up into that scenario for a little bit there, and there was some questionable play calling there as well, Isaiah. But Kellen Moore was able to adjust with what he had to work with, and the receivers had a nice day.
Yeah, the good thing about this receiving core, I know we talk a lot about the big three that we have out there, but we really have a deep five. We have a deep five, and these guys have been involved all year long, not only on special teams, but also in the passing game, also in the blocking game. We bring Noah Brown in, we bring Wilson in. These guys have been in this offense all year long, so it's not like these are the two guys that just sit on the bench, and when somebody gets hurt, you bring them in. They've been involved. They've had the opportunity to gain confidence with the quarterback, gain confidence with the other guys that they get in the huddle with, and then you see it show up today whenever you actually need somebody to step in and fill the role.
You know, one thing I wondered when we lost our tight end there early in the year and then Dak went out, how would coach distribute the ball? More importantly, how would coach Kellen Moore distribute the ball? He don't care. He lines them up. He tells Dalton, the first guy that gets open in the right coverage, you throw him the ball. He threw to 7 different guys there. Even the big Bell Doge, I think he made something happen. So everybody's involved, and that breeds confidence. And when you got confident guys, they're running their routes right, and everything's and the first guy that comes open within that pattern gets the ball.
Yeah, like we said, I think it has to do a lot with the confidence out there. I mean, I keep saying it, but I feel as though the way that Kellen Moore was able to call this game, he got everybody involved, from the Belldozer out there to Schultz, who's like a third down magnet. Then you had all the receivers from Noah Brown, Cedric Wilson, all the way up to Cooper, were all involved. And when you have it like that, where you can display the ball to this guy, that guy, it gets the defense on the other side of the ball confused. They don't know who to key on. They don't know who to double team out there. And we've seen with Andy Dalton in this confidence, he can do that with this offense. So hopefully, like I said before, we can keep this momentum going, and Andy Dalton can keep this impressive play.
Dalton Schultz with a touchdown reception. Michael Gallup had a touchdown, but there were 2 touchdowns on the ground for Tony Pollard. We'll hear from Tony Pollard and his post-game reaction straight from the locker room at AT&T Stadium when we come back here on Cowboys OT. Ezekiel Elliott inactive for today's matchup with San Francisco. In his place, Tony Pollard with over 130 total yards, 60 through the air, 60 on the ground for TP. Here's what he had to say at the podium after his win at AT&T Stadium.
Tony, what was it like getting the start and getting that big touchdown towards the end of the game that just about sealed the deal?
I mean, it was big for me. A dream come true, being in the league, getting a chance to start the game out, knowing the team that would be dependent on me a little more. But I just try to take advantage of my opportunities and make the most of it.
What was so difficult? What was San Francisco doing the most that was kind of making the run game slow developing this afternoon?
I would just say they did a lot of run stunts, up front, a lot of different guys twisting, going different ways, making it harder for the O-line to identify who they have. But, we did a good job staying with it. End up busting a big one right at the end of the game that we needed.
Tony, when did you know that Zeke was out?
It was a last minute, game time decision. All week we knew he was, banged up a little bit, but, a guy like Zeke, we always expect him to play. So it was definitely a surprise, something that we weren't expecting.
How big was that for you guys to get back-to-back victories for the first time in a very long time?
It was big, big for the team, something we hadn't done all year. And, just to take that momentum from the last win and, carry it over, and playing at home, that's also a big thing, getting a win at home.
Hey, Tony, it's, a lot of your touches and a lot of your success in the early going was in the passing game. How much a part of that was in the game plan heading into it this week? And then how did San Francisco adjust to that as the game went along?
A lot of it was just, not being greedy on offense and just taking what they gave us, taking a lot of check downs, just they would leave the flats open, and we just took advantage of that and then just played around it.
Can you describe your 40-yarder there at the end and what you saw?
I didn't think I would end up breaking as many tackles as I did, but it was our normal go-to run play, up the middle. It was a little crowded, and I, bounced it outside. My guys did a good job holding their blocks, and I just let my natural ability make up for the rest.
40 yards on that one run from Tony Pollard in the fourth quarter, really kind of sealing the deal for the Cowboys, or at least at that point it looked like it sealed the deal. But whenever you look at Tony Pollard's day, it was a lunch pail day for him. Coming in and starting, it wasn't easy. He was held really in check through his first 11 carries, but it was the 12th one that broke things open, Isaiah.
Yeah, it was just they were persistent in their pursuit to establish him in his ball game. Mm-hmm. Whether it came in the form of running, whether it came in the form of receiving, screens, Kellen Moore was determined to get him involved, and not only get him involved, but build his confidence and let him know, hey, we're behind you today.
Yeah, he was a mismatch for most of those linebackers and safeties. When he got out into the open field, he don't look as explosive as he is. I'm talking about for his punch. Mm-hmm. When he makes contact, he breaks a lot of tackles, and it amazes me. It's like, wow, this little fella breaking tackles. But he's explosive, and he's very versatile, and they showed that today. And Kellen Moore did a great job of making sure he had that time to do it.
You're right. Kellen Moore did a great job of calling the game and giving this guy confidence. Like you said, Isaiah, they kept feeding him. They kept feeding him the rock, and he was able to do what he had to do out there. He showed great He just showed great juice, explosiveness out there, energy. He kind of brought that pop to this offense. And like you guys said, I didn't think he was a kind of guy that can get through the middle of the tackles, between the tackles, and make guys miss. But he was out there doing that. He was running through guys, spinning off guys, and he just showed that energy and that pizzazz he had for this offense and kind of exploded off of him. And I like what Kellen Moore did as far as getting him involved in the game early in offense, often, and it gave him confidence going forward. When the Cowboys were up 27-24 in that fourth quarter following the interception from Wilson, it really seemed like that was the time that they were going to miss Ezekiel Elliott, and him being inactive for the first time in his career with no suspension involved, but just a true inactive spot for Ezekiel Elliott today. How do you feel like the play calling responded, the offense responded, and that opportunity to put the game on ice late in that fourth quarter, Isaiah, whenever that's normally up to 21?
Yeah, we keep using the word confidence today, but it literally was all over the place. I don't feel like any of us in the studio here felt like the game was ever out of control, as if we never were going to, finish the game off, or as if they were ever going to go ahead and be leading this game. We all felt really confident, and I think that came across today with Kellen Moore and his play calling. I think that the play calling was amazing. The stuff that he was doing, we haven't seen some of this stuff all year long. Some of the trickery and the fakes and the bootlegs, and they were spreading the ball out, and there was we were caught off guard. So I know that the opposing team was caught off guard. So we always felt like they was in control, and I think he did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think whenever you look at the Cowboys play calling wise, that's something that the Cowboys are going to need going into these final couple weeks of the season, and especially into the 2021 offseason whenever they evaluate this coaching staff as well. When we come back, speaking of the coaching staff, Mike McCarthy had an opportunity to step up to the podium. We'll hear what he had to say after his first win streak as the Cowboys head coach after this. Cowboys get another win in back-to-back weeks for the first time this season. They also stay alive in the NFC East hunt, at least for another week. As we head into Week 16 of the NFL season, here's what Coach Mike McCarthy had to say at AT&T Stadium after the 41-33 win.
Mike, with the way you played today, you talked about wanting to build on what you did last week. Is this the first point this season where you felt you've built on what you've done and starting to show the improvement that you've wanted to?
Definitely. I would clearly say that we built on what we accomplished last week. I think, starting out with the obvious and with the focus on ball security, being +5 today, +3 last week, 0 giveaways 2 weeks in a row. So, I mean, that's a huge part of our focus. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, it wasn't happening. So I think our guys have done a great job executing these opportunities. Most importantly, continue to put themselves in position to make these plays. So, we had a number of injuries, as Rich has already read through. I thought the team, fought exceptionally hard. I thought the communication on the boundary was excellent, just with the number of adjustments going on throughout the game. But at the end of the day, we taking care of the football, fighting through the rough patches of the game, the momentum swings was clearly the difference in the game. So I can't say enough about the 5 takeaways.
Mike, did you learn a little something about your team in terms of just fighting through adversity with those injuries?
I would say so. I've talked about it continuous, over these past weeks on how I feel strongly. I feel strongly that these times, and hopefully, we're moving through them, and we'll continue to move through them with success, because this football team definitely deserves it. But these times of adversity that we've gone through, that it would definitely pay dividends in the future, and I think that's part of our growth. I think it's part of the newness and understanding, exactly how this team, trains. Performs, evaluates all those things that go into building a successful season, let alone a successful program. So, the times of adversity clearly are things we can grow from, and I'm just really happy for the players. I mean, these guys deserve this. They've stayed after it. I think the 7-day week really helped us, get back into a routine and practice, and we knew this was going to be a tough outing, just the way the matchups were laid out. And, obviously San Francisco's gone through a number of challenges too, but I thought it was I'm sure it was a fun game to watch. It was definitely an excellent game to compete in.
The storyline last week in the 30-7 win over Cincinnati was complementary football. It was really the first time we had seen it all season long for this Cowboys team, and special teams, defense, offense. Well, guys, they continued that into today, and it certainly was another instance of that complementary football, maybe even their best instance of it, Isaiah.
Yes, and when you use the term complementary football, you want to make sure that you're either playing a field of possession game on special teams and or getting turnovers, which we did. On the defensive side of the ball, get turnovers, right, which we did. And on the offensive side of the ball, once you receive those turnovers in the possessions that you have, score touchdowns, which we did. Today was a perfect example of all 3 phases coming together and playing the symmetry.
And when we started this season needing our defense to get turnovers. We knew that people were scoring us, but the turnovers was what we were seeking at the beginning of the year. And like you say, these last 2 games, we've got 7 turnovers. That is big. That is how your defense can always be a part of this thing. And with CeeDee Lamb with the punt return today, that's where your special teams is a part of it. So now you have an offense that has always been potent, along with a nice defense that gives you turnover and a return team that can give you a touchdown. That's complementary football.
Yeah, it was great all-around football, I think, from this team overall. I mean, when you talk about special teams, they were able to pin their defense down and flip the field when needed to, and they were able to pin them deep with the punter and then C.J. Goodwin able to down it down there. And then offensively, we didn't turn the ball over, I don't think, at all. And then defensively, we were able to go out there and get takeaways. We were able to get takeaways and give our offense a short field and let Andy Dalton go out there and do what he does. So overall, it was a great, well-rounded game. Special teams came to play, defense, offense. We all did what we needed to do. Too bad this isn't, week 4, week 5. We can keep this momentum going. But, hopefully Washington ends up laying a dud and we're able to sneak in there.
Well, and there's a potential for that as Washington has Carolina and Philly left on their schedule. But Barry Jerry, whenever it comes to a defensive standpoint and you get those takeaways, you pull the football away and your offense is able to convert on the other side, how much of a confidence boost is that, knowing that, hey, you did their job, now the offense can do theirs?
It's huge. It is huge when it comes to the game of football. If you're able to take the ball away and give it to your offense, and in that same possession, that offense is able to go down there, score points, and get you up in that game, it is huge. It gives your confidence a boost. It lets the defense know that they're doing their job, whether it be the front seven getting after the quarterback, whether it be the back end picking the ball off, which we did today in both instances. It gave our defense confidence, and we were able to roll with that for the remainder of this game.
2 fumbles recovered, 2 interceptions, and the Cowboys get the win in this one, 41-33. They also had a special teams touchdown. CeeDee Lamb returning an onside kick later in the game that ended up being the difference in this one. We'll hear from CeeDee Lamb right after this when we return on Cowboys OT. Continuing along here on Cowboys OT, Cowboys win 41-33 over San Francisco, and rookie wide receiver CeeDee Lamb had another big day, 85 yards through the air. He was the team's leading receiver, but he also had a special teams touchdown and a couple big returns as well. Let's go back out to AT&T Stadium and hear from CeeDee after the game.
CeeDee, what was it like when you recovered that onside kick and was able to take it to the house?
It's this guy
honestly,
again.
It all happened so fast. It was just a split-second decision. I heard it from the defensive guys after knowing I should have took a knee, but it was too open. You know what I'm saying?
How big was it for you and your teammates to get another victory at home and the second victory in a row? It's been the first time the Cowboys have done that in a long time.
It's been huge. Obviously, we're trying to see what we're building here, and we're taking steps in the right direction. Obviously, with these past 2 weeks coming out victorious, and right now we're living it up, enjoying the win, and next week we'll have Philly here.
Hey, CeeDee, back when Dak first got hurt, you said something about how, this was going to be a maturing process for you, a chance for you to mature as a player. I'm pretty sure this is your best day since Dak went out, 85 yards. You had the touchdown as well. How do you feel like you've adjusted to that challenge, or has it been as good or better than you were thinking back when that happened?
Personally, I feel like I still have a lot to work on, and many others will tell you the same. And obviously, when Dak went down, I knew in my position I had to step up and the team and help the team a lot more, just on my behalf, and going in to work every day, just thinking about the same situation, just going in to be better every week, learn from Andy, Coop, all the guys that I have around me, Zeke, TP, the list goes on, and then having Coach McCarthy in my ear every now and then. It's just me overall just trying to be better for the team, and that's what I approach it as, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
CeeDee, how much do you guys look at this? You guys are still in this thing with 2 games to play.
It's all went by so fast. As now that I reflect on it, and I've thought about it a couple of times, but your rookie year fly by. Many people told me, but it's not over, and I still, like you said, I still have 2 more weeks.
One of the big turning points in the 41-33 win was back in the third quarter where San Francisco had put up 10 unanswered points, you guys, and it really looked like things were kind of going downhill for this Cowboys offense. It was third down. Andy Dalton was under pressure, found CeeDee Lamb on a 45-yard bomb down the right sideline, and then after that, a couple plays later, actually the next play, Dalton Schultz found his way in from 12 yards. That's kind of what we were talking about in the last segment of complementary football, but when you have a veteran quarterback like that and a talented rookie wide receiver, it's pretty easy to find those kinds of big plays like that, Isaiah.
Yeah, it's easy to find those plays when you have your offensive coordinator putting everybody in position to be successful. Kellen Moore has improved substantially throughout the season, and we know that he's had just as much adversity as anybody else has had this year. Obviously, trying to wrangle this whole offense and get this thing going with O-line changes, and now obviously you got Zeke out for today, and he had to find a way to distribute the ball. But in terms of Andy Dalton and CeeDee, those guys have been getting their chemistry growing for the last about 3 or 4 weeks, and you've seen that really build. And today it was on display.
When they drafted this guy, man, they talking about putting him in the slot. All I heard receivers and DBs saying, ain't nobody going to be able to cover him because you're talking about linebackers, a third or fourth corner, or a safety. And he's grown tremendously. I mean, he had a little stumbling there when they first changed the quarterbacks to Andy Dalton. But like you said, the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been outstanding. And he's back to that killer slot guy. He's doing a great job.
Look, I mean, this guy's a dog. This guy is a straight dog on the football field, and I love what I'm seeing from him. Each game, he seems to grow more and more as a receiver, a more complete receiver. It's like when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's still out there blocking for Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott for them to get their extra yards. And he's extremely quarterback friendly. Being in that slot, you have to have an extremely high football IQ out there in the slot because you got to be quarterback friendly out there. You got to know where the zones are and where to break, and he does that at an extremely good effort. Look, I'm impressed with this kid. I mean, he's done it all. He checked all the boxes for me, and hopefully he can continue that for the rest of this year.
You guys mentioned the offensive line and still kind of dealing with those injuries, but it was the third straight week of the same offensive line, and it looks like that there's no indication that will switch going into next week's matchup with Philadelphia. But Nate, what did you think about the front five and how they were able to protect down the stretch, especially when San Francisco changed things up?
We talked about it earlier. They have kept this guy Dalton upright. They have given him opportunities to go to first, second, and third reads, man. And what more can you say? Coach Philbin, hey, my hat's off to you, man. Looney, keep leading the fellas, man. I saw you try to throw a few blows out there today. Didn't look too good at it, but it was okay.
Yeah, Looney's not really a fighter. I think he's more of a loving type whenever it comes to the sparring in the middle of a game. But when we come back here on Cowboys OT, the secondary got some reinforcements as well, and there's an opportunity for the Cowboys to get some continuity on the backside of the defense. We'll hear from Jordan Lewis right after this. In the 41-33 win for the Dallas Cowboys over the San Francisco 49ers, they saw a trio of defensive backs return. Donovan Wilson, who had an interception. Same thing with Anthony Brown. Trayvon Diggs made his return, and the happiest one out of the secondary, probably Jordan Lewis. Here's what he had to say after the win.
Jordan, can you just talk about defensively what this group's been able to do over the last couple of weeks with the turnovers?
We just been able to put it together. We always knew we were capable, but we just found the ingredients. You know, these last few games, and we sticking with it. I'm proud of the guys. We stuck to it, and we playing some good ball right now.
What have been those ingredients, Jordan?
Just going out there every day practicing, you know, trying to get the ball, just flying to the ball, and just understanding that we're still in this thing, and just playing with each other, and trying to go out there and compete every single play.
Jordan, there's been so much talk on the outside about the draft and things along those lines, but you sit here a game back with 2 to go. What's it like for you guys in that locker room just to sort of hang on to the hope?
I mean, that's our job. We're professional athletes. We got to go out there and do our best, put our best foot forward, go out there and win games. And that's what we're trying to go out there and do, try to string a few together and try and get in the playoffs.
Jordan, the offense obviously gets a lot of energy from you guys when you're able to create these turnovers. When you see what some of these things that Tony's breaking off, particularly that 40-yard touchdown at the end, how much energy do y'all get off that play complementary football?
I mean, it's amazing. Like you said, complementary football is the best thing, you know, for any team. When you get guys on the offensive side playing the way they're playing, and then you get us out there juiced up. I mean, you can feel the momentum swing in our direction. And every time, you know, they break a big run like that, or you know, big pass. I mean, it just you know, I mean, it's just amazing. It's a good thing for us, our defense.
How do you think you played today, Jordan? You had the sack, a tackle for loss, a couple pass breakups and things.
I mean, I played all right. I played all right. I didn't finish. Second half, I got to go out there and finish, and you know, just play with better energy. I feel like I kind of had some lapses out there. Gave up a pass interference, looking back, and it was just, you know, got to go out there and finish, and that's what good teams do. We got to go finish and not give up touchdowns. That last touchdown was, you know, a little breaking coverage. So we just got to go out there and finish. I mean, we played a great, you know, first half. We just got to go out there and finish.
What do you believe the difference? Go ahead.
What does it say about this group with all the adversity that you had for most of this season that it appears to be playing its best ball right now?
I mean, it's a testament to their character. You know, our character, the guys that's in the locker room, the coaching staff that still believes in us. It just shows the type of guys we got in this organization. Never give up, always fight. So I mean, we got some great guys to lead in us, and we got some great guys in on the field, and you know, just giving us encouragement off the bench and stuff like that. So I mean, we're doing a great job.
There's definitely been improvement on the defensive side of the football the last 2 weeks. But Isaiah, I want to challenge you here a little bit. Even with the improvement against Cincinnati and today against San Francisco, you're going up against guys like Brandon Allen and Nick Mullins at quarterback. How has this defense improved, and can they carry it into the last 2 weeks of the season?
I see what you did there, Kyle. I see what you did there. Yes, I say yes, simply because these guys are not only getting interceptions, these guys are hitting people and turning the ball over. That's something that the quarterbacks really can't control. So these guys are playing well collectively. We already alluded to it. These guys are playing with confidence. They're flying around. The energy is different, and when your energy is flowing like that, that's what defenses. That's what they eat off of. We got to ask Barry about that all day long. And defenses, when they get a little vibe, when they got some momentum, that's when they're hard to stop, and that's when they're having fun and playing just like they're playing some street ball.
You know what? And I like that, man. And to add on to what he said, man, do we see guys running wide open now? I mean, for the last few months, we've been seeing guys run wide open. Wow, what's going on? Guys looking in the backfield, guys running past them, guys crossing routes they can't switch. The communication, ain't the quarterbacks they playing, it's the communication between them. Now, when they play a better quarterback, he'll have a smaller window to deal with. That's what it's about in defense. How big are the windows?
Yeah, the windows were definitely small today, and I think the secondary, they played well as a unit together. I mean, the reinforcements came in. You had Diggs, Wilson, and Woozier came back, and they played well. And you could tell that when the reinforcements came in the secondary, they got more comfortable with each other. Like you guys mentioned, the communication was way better out there today as a whole. There wasn't any balls flying over anybody's head today. Everything was competitive, and every receiver that caught a ball, they had to fight and scratch and claw for that ball. So for me, the secondary, they played a lot better today, and it had to do with that juice getting in there. The Wilson, the striker, Woozier, those boys coming back in there, and they proved to have a lot of energy, and they need to continue that for the rest of this year.
Barry, I'm going to come right back to you here whenever it comes to the defense and, of course, the coaching staff. Mike Nolan, he's been a little bit on the hot seat as of late. Was today, paired with last week, enough to cool down that hot seat a little bit?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say all that. I mean, he cooled it off a little bit with these last 2 weeks, creating a lot of turnovers, but there was just too many head-scratching plays throughout this whole year. I mean, there was too many instances where the secondary was blowing coverages out there, the effort wasn't there, the teams were running the ball for over 300 yards against us at one point in this year. So I just believe the damage has already been done, but overall, this defense is continually getting better, so hopefully they can do that for these last 2 games.
Still a lot of growth that needs to be had from this defense going into Week 16 and Week 17. Growth that we're going to have to see in the middle of a playoff hunt. The Cowboys are now just 1 game back at the moment. When we come back on Cowboys OT, we'll tie a bow on this 41-33 Cowboys win and get you ready for Week 16.
The Cowboys OT, presented by the Texas Lottery, was brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Wendy's new pretzel bacon puff cheeseburger at participating Wendy's for a limited time only. NFL Game Pass. You'll never miss a game again. Enjoy full access to coaches' film and game replays from Week 1 to the Super Bowl. Subscribe at DallasCowboys.com/Game Pass. And by the Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big.
The Cowboys continue their series dominance over the San Francisco 49ers since the turn of the century. Today, it was a 41-33 win over San Francisco. The Cowboys improved to 5-9, and the 49ers fall to 5-9. Despite being outgained, really outplayed for a lot of this football game, the Cowboys' complementary football prevails in a 40-burger for the second time in 2020. And for the first time in 2020, they won back-to-back games. Kyle Yeoman's back with you. Final segment here of Cowboys OT. Barry Church, Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback across the studio from me. And Isaiah, you look at this game, you've got a little bit of momentum now for this Dallas Cowboys squad. How do you continue that going into Week 16?
You build on it. You just take the next step. You take the next step. You go into the practice, you come into the building tomorrow. You watch film. You take your edit, your critiques that coach gives you, and you have a real hard look at it and say, okay, this is what I did well. Let's build on that. This is what we did not do well. Let's improve upon this. You can't look and start talking about playoffs. You have to look at the next opponent and figure out exactly what you want to do to go out here and get this next W.
You have so much that you can look at because they still got 33 points, and they still running the ball strong, and they still making plays. Now, we're tackling better. We're filling our gaps with assignments are better. But those are the things that you have to work on. If you can get that run game down, if you can take those 5 minutes where they had 35 minutes of time and we only had 25, if you take 5 minutes of that time away from their offense and put it on yours, now you're doing a great thing.
Yeah, you're doing a great thing if you take control of that time of possession, and if they're able to get a little bit better on third down. I think they were 6 of 15 today, so they got to get a little bit better on third down. But overall, you got to focus on what you can control. I know you got to take it one game at a time. You can't focus on what Washington's doing up there because you can't control that. Focus on what you can control as a team and just take it one game at a time, one win at a time, and everything else will work itself out. But you got to control what you can control.
The Cowboys close out their home slate of the 2020 campaign with a game against Philadelphia next Sunday. And then they close out the 2020 season on the road against the New York Giants. And that one past the turn of the new year into January. The Cowboys have an opportunity to at least get to 7-9. Now, draft nerds might not want to hear that, but in terms of the playoff hunt with a Washington loss today, the Cowboys are right back in the thick of things. That's going to do it for us here on Cowboys OT. Want to thank our entire crew here from DallasCowboys.com. For Nate Newton, Isaiah Stanback, and Barry Church, I'm Kyle Yeoman. So long after the 41-33 win.